In Greek mythology, when you talk about story or narrative, they usually talk about two different kinds. There's the overstory, which is what happened, the plot. And then there's the understory, which is the journey of the soul of the main character. So I see the Fry Foundation in two dimensions. There is the story, and it's a great story.
The Lloyd A. Fry Roofing Company was a big company. It became the biggest manufacturer of roofing products in the country. By the time the company was sold to Owens Corning Fiberglass in 1977, we had about 5,000 employees.
But the criteria to sell it was their employees had to be taken care of. And that to me now is the understory. So you have the overstory of the business. It's a great, Harvard Business Review. But then the understory was the integrity of the man and the family.
Mr. Fry was actually two people. When I first got to know him, he's a very stern individual. It was his way or no way. You also saw soft spots. Family was important to him. His family was important, and I think he recognized that all the rest of us had important families too. Up until this time, when I was working in Summit, I knew there was a foundation. But the foundation wasn't really an active one.
I met Lloyd Fry over the winter of 79, 80, when he was much focused on his estate planning, and as a consequence in the next year. And we came up with a moderately detailed plan to provide for a foundation and his wife and his children and his grandchildren and his great-grandchildren.
So I think he was part of a generation that really felt a responsibility to Chicago and then lived up to that responsibility.
There was never any comments made that, I want you to concentrate on this particular thing. He more or less left it to the powers that be, so to speak, and said, here it is, do your best.
And I think the unanimous opinion was that because the company was headquartered in the Chicago area and they wanted the foundation to be as effective as possible, that it should be focused on the city of Chicago.
So when I first came to the foundation, the grantmaking was in these four broad categories, and there wasn't a lot of strategy or definition around why we're funding things, and everybody was a generalist.
We didn't have a system for tracking the metrics that were significant, that were really going to leverage the intellectual capital or the money or the tools that we were offering or the work that grantees were doing. So this notion of metrics that matter took us on a journey. It still has, but we're getting pretty darn good at it.
So now we have a staff that are steeped in their program areas. They have a strong understanding of the policy and political landscape in their areas. They have a very strong understanding of the landscape of organizations that are working in these areas, our grantees, as well as groups that are not necessarily our grantees, because all of this is the landscape. Our grantees don't work in a silo. And now we really have a depth of experience and knowledge that can help us identify where is some of the most important work in the field going on, who are the most effective organizations working in this area, and what are the common challenges across these organizations.
Stewardship and thinking about stewardship at the board level, at the staff level, with your constituents, with those that you serve, that we all think that this is a valuable asset and we all have a responsibility to care for it and to provide for its future. And that's not always money. That's as much about the mission, it's about the stewarding of the vision, as well as stewarding the resources to make that work possible.
We need to make sure that the dollars that were established and put in the endowment are well spent.
I understand both sides of the fence. I understand what it means and how hard it is to raise money and what a responsibility that is, and I also understand how hard it is and the responsibilities of giving away money as well.
It is very clear at the Fry Foundation that all of the board members read the books, cover to cover, and they have lots of questions and they have lots of discussion about the merits of all of the grants.
They tell me I ask a lot of questions. And so curiosity, wanting to understand why, how does it work, what does it look like on the ground, what the impact is.
What are the challenges that people are facing? How can we do a better job? Let's be better directors, let's be better program officers, let's confront these issues, let's get other people involved, because we cannot rest until people's lives have been improved to the point that I'm not sure we'll ever get there, but we have to continue to strive to do that.
You need to be proactive, but you also need to be very careful and you need to study the field. I'm convinced that we do better grant making when we let the grantees structure what they think would be most important, rather than us telling them what we think they need.
It's a struggle. You have to say no more than you say yes.
You have a responsibility, thinking of stewardship, to steward the resources of the foundation so that they last into the future. So I could give away more now, but then I'll have none to give away 5 years from now, and that's not the point.
We are going to invest in those that have a predisposition to want to be the best they can be and do whatever it takes, which is rigorous metrics and exceptional practice and looking for what's out there so they can get better, and then sharing it and working with others and collaborating and giving away their intellectual capital. That's what gets me even more excited about what we're doing now, because we're so much better as a foundation in terms of not just our story, but now our design.
The Fry Foundation has been very forward-thinking in terms of diversity at every level, in terms of our grantees, in terms of the populations that are served by our grantees, in terms of the staff and leadership of our grantee organizations, as well as the diversity of the boards of our grantees.
We question our accountants, we question our investment advisors. If you ask questions about the Fry Foundation around the town, some will say they have this peculiar interest in diversity, which they carry everywhere.
And it's important, not just in terms of bean counting, but we think that the programs are stronger if you have a broader set of inputs, if you have a broader set of collaborations, if you have the perspective and experience of a wider range of people.
I think we always have to be vigilant about asking ourselves questions and examining what we're doing and the impact of what we're doing to see what we might do better.
Our focus is simply trying to make Chicago a better city, make its organization stronger, so that everybody can have a better future.
So Lloyd A. Fry, he was a very astute businessman, and he made a lot of money. He made millions of dollars, and he left some money to his family, and he left some in service to society through the foundation. And we at the foundation today, we are stewards of that funding in service to society. This is the best job there is.